Hi friends, welcome back to the Enchanted Stay, where fantasy books and stray kids live in perfect chaotic harmony, just like they should. Today I'm reviewing a non-fiction book, How to Write Romantasy by Jenna Moreci. I received an ARC via NetGalley back in July last year, and as someone who writes fantasy and romance-adjacent stories, I was very curious to see how this guide handled the genre that's currently ruling BookTok and Bookstagram. Short version, I learned a lot. I planned an entire romantasy series while reading it. And yes, this book's absolutely earned its 4.5 out of 5 stars. So grab your sword and your light stick and let's talk about why. How to Write Romantasy is exactly what it promises, a step-by-step guide to writing romantasy, where fantasy plot and romance arc are equally important. This isn't a vague follow-your-heart writing book, it's structured, practical, and clearly written by someone who understands fantasy tropes, romance expectations, and how readers will absolutely riot if one half is underdeveloped. Jenna breaks down romantasy as its own genre, not just fantasy with kissing or romance with magic wallpaper, and I really appreciated that. One of this book's biggest strengths is how well structured it is. Each section builds logically, defining romantasy, balancing romance versus plot, choosing tropes intentionally, crafting love interests, and making sure both the emotional arc and the fantasy stakes are satisfying. It's very easy to follow, even if you're newer to writing. What stood out to me most was clear explanations of romance beats, how to avoid fantasy info dumping that kills romantic tension, how to make sure your love story doesn't derail your world building or vice versa. At no point did I feel overwhelmed, which is impressive for a craft book tackling two complex genres at once. This is where the book really won me over. I didn't just read this passively, I actively outlined a romantasy series, refined my trope choices, and rethought how I balance emotional intimacy with plot momentum. It helped me see romantasy as a design problem, not just a vibes-based genre, and that clarity alone made the book worth it. If you're someone who loves romantasy but struggles to write it without leaning too far fantasy or too far romance, this book helps recalibrate that balance. I would especially recommend this book to writers new to romantasy, fantasy authors wanting to add romance without breaking their plot, romance writers curious about fantasy world building, and planners who love frameworks and structure. If you're already an experienced romantasy author, some sections may feel familiar, but even then it's an excellent reference guide. Quick note, I love the cover. It's clean, genre appropriate, and visually communicates romantasy immediately, which honestly is harder than it sounds. Overall, How to Write Romantasy is practical, encouraging, clearly written, and genuinely useful. It helped me plan a series. It made the genre feel approachable instead of intimidating. And it represented both fantasy and romance readers. I'm giving it 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I absolutely recommend it, especially if romantasy is on your writing horizon. If you read this book, let me know what you thought. And if you want more writing craft, fantasy talk, stray kids, or romantasy chaos, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay chaotic, stay magical, stay.